Hello there.
Okay, Chair, meeting's now live.
Thank you very much and welcome everyone. Good afternoon to everyone on the call as well. I'm Susie Horton, I'm Chair of SACRE. We are meeting virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. Until recently, the law stated that all members had to be present in the room to make formal decisions at meetings. However, the law was amended in response to the COVID-19 emergency and councils are able to hold public meetings virtually. This will be in accordance with the local authority's coronavirus flexibility of local authority meetings regulations 2020 number 392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting online and the recording will be on the council's website afterwards. Members are requested to keep their microphones on mute and to only turn these on when they are called to speak. If anyone else would like to speak, please write RTS, which stands for Request to Speak, in the chat function. But if you can't manage that, then we hopefully will be able to somehow identify you. But if we could do that, that would be great. And when you do speak, because we've got a lot of people on this call, if you could say who you are so it's clear who's speaking, that would be great. And because it is a public meeting, we need to be mindful of anything else that we put in the chat because it will be available for everyone to see. So I've got a list that's been given to me, and I'll go through that first, and then if I've left anyone off my list afterwards, we will give you an opportunity to make yourself known. So when I call your name, if you could remember to unmute yourself and then just say that you're here. So I'm going to start off with the Vice Chair, who is Reverend Sam Duddles. Sam.
Hello, I'm here.
Welcome. Councillor Tom Coles.
Councillor Coles has given his apologies.
He's given apologies.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maria Cole. I've seen Maria pop up. Maria?
Yes, I'm here.
You're here. Welcome, Maria. Taki?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here as well.
Welcome, Taki. Sarah Coote?
I'm present.
Welcome, Sarah. Sheikh Fazl Abbas Tabtu?
I'm present.
You're present. Welcome. Saeed Aminul Haq? Can't see anyone. Trying to speak. Elizabeth Jenkinson?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Christine McMillan?
I'm here, Susie.
Hello, Christine. Welcome. Jeff Wheeler?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Jeff. Welcome. Pastor Chris Thomas?
Present, correct.
Welcome, Chris. Sandra Teacher, I think, is new. Welcome.
Yes, I'm here, Sandra Teacher from the Board of Deputies of British Jews. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Nice to see you here and welcome. Akshat Mehta. Is Akshat here? Nope. Jaswant Singh Digpal.
Yes, hello there. I'm here from the Port Masjid Temple, Gunangsa Gurdwara. I'm sorry I haven't got a camera on this laptop, so you won't be able to see me, but you wouldn't want to see me anyway. So, but next time hopefully I'll have a computer with a camera on it.
Thank you for that explanation, Jaswant, and you're more than welcome. Sue Bowen.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Sue. Welcome. Jane Kelly.
Yes, hi, I'm here too.
Hi, Jane. Nice to see you. Helen Reader. Can't see those initials anywhere. Carrie Lang. Nope. Debbie Lucas. Gemma Self. Ali Beechurst. I've seen Ali.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Ali. Welcome. Ryan Brent. Pat Hannam.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Pat. And
Hi.
Debbie Anderson.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Debbie. And finally on my list, my initial list is Lisa Gallagher.
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Thank you, Lisa. So we have some humanist observers attending today who've expressed an interest in filling the humanist vacancy on our SACRE. If you would like to introduce yourself, so I think I've got some names here. Barbara Spieghalter.
Yes, hello.
Have I said that correctly?
You have.
Excellent. Hi, Barbara, and welcome. Charlotte Lovey. Charlotte here. Duncan Dib Holland. Jeff Wade. I can see Jeff.
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome.
Hi.
Jim O'Donnell. Thank you, Jim.
Hello there.
Hi, Jim, and welcome. Thank you, everyone. That takes me back to my teaching days of when you're reading out the register. So thank you, everyone, and welcome. And welcome to the new members on SACRE today. Patricia's going to give an update on this under agenda item 7. That's a long list. Is there anyone else that's in the meeting who I have missed out? No one? Okay. So we go on to item 2 then, which is apologies for absence. I know Lisa highlighted that Councillor Coles had sent his apologies. And on my list, I've also got John Mills and Aisha Small. Anyone else send apologies?
I've not had any more apologies.
Thanks, Lisa. Were any other apologies sent via someone else? No, so that seems to be a true record of that. Okay, so item 3, we're coming on to our moment of quiet reflection, and I'm going to hand over now and put myself on mute and hand over to Maria Coles, who's going to lead this. Thank you, Maria. Maria, can you hear us?
I keep going on and off. I think I'm on. Right.
You're on, Maria. We can hear you.
You're on now.
Right. Yes, I joined SACRE as a member of the public over 20 years ago in Plymouth, and then I moved to Portsmouth 17 years ago and started attending again as a member of the public, but talking to parents at schools and out in coffee mornings and what have you. I have always felt that I am community-led. So I'm going to give you a very short couple of readings and hope that they're okay. One is from the SACRE paper. It's extracts from Ofsted Inspections. So I'm not going to tell you which school this was spoken about. So I'll read this one, and then I've got one other to read to you. Pupils learn about a balanced range of world religions. They speak confidently about their beliefs and listen carefully and respectfully to the views of others. They treat religious artifacts with appropriate respect when using them in the classrooms, because teaching is helping them to appreciate their significance in different religions. that was one of the reasons why I was interested in SACRE, because I believe teaching children about religion is good because it gets a balance with racial prejudice, which I'm very interested in. So I just want to read this now. This was written by Rabbi Pete Tobias. All genuine religions have at their heart a desire for peace, justice, and reconciliation. Our world desperately needs these, and it needs representatives of different religions to demonstrate their particular faith's commitment to bringing them about. Each religion can be proud of its particular heritage and its particular traditions. Each should be equally proud and forthright about its common commitment to and joint expression of a shared vision of the future of humankind. That's where I am with religion and the teaching of it to children.
Thank you so much, Maria, and it's really great to hear how when you moved cities, even though most people think Portsmouth and Plymouth are the same place, that you actually became more engaged, and I like the way that you've focused in on what something that's very meaningful to a local school. So that's really nice to use that. That's fantastic. I just noticed that Sandra's put, it'd be helpful to know which organisations people represent. Having been through everyone, I probably should have asked people to do that when they were all introducing themselves. So I'm just wondering the best way to do that is maybe what we can do is, as we go through the agenda, when people speak and there's opportunities, if they could give that information, and then if we've got time at the end, we can come back to that. Okay, sorry about that. Item 4 is declaration of members' interest. Do any members have any interest to declare? I'm going to come to Elizabeth.
Yes, I'm the Baha'i representative. Hi, Sandra. And I'm a judge for West Hill, which gives grants to SACRE. So I have to declare that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to declare an interest? No. So item 5 is the minutes of the previous meeting. Can't believe that was the 12th of November. But anyway, anyone who was present at the last meeting, do I have a proposer for the minutes that were circulated before? So that is Chris. Thomas, is that a proposer? I can't remember who was at the last. Chris, do you want to speak?
Yeah, Chris Thomas from Group A on the SACRE of sort of other religions and so forth, and I represent the Evangelical Church in Portsmouth, and I propose we accept those fine minutes.
Thank you, Chris. That's really great. Anyone prepared to second? Oh, someone's got their hand up. Jane, you happy to second?
Yes, I'm Jane Kelly. I represent Group B, the Church of England, and yeah, more than happy to second them.
Thank you very much, Jane. So the minutes of the previous meeting have therefore been approved. So we come on to item 6, which is matters arising from the minutes. Some things are coming up on the agenda, but are there any matters arising that are not listed on the agenda?
Yes, Chair, I'd just like to bring one thing, Pat Hannam here.
Yeah.
Just to say that Reverend Sam Doddles, Christine Macmillan and Maria Coles and I have met to discuss the SACRE directory document. And the good news is that, as well as finding a number of historic paper copies, we have actually been able to locate on the website a more recent e-copy. It does need updating, and we're in discussion now with Debbie, the local authority advisor who's here, about next steps. So I think if SACRE are content, our group will carry on holding this, if you like, and taking it forward to the next steps as we can.
That is brilliant news. Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you for committing to doing that. That is great. So that is a directory. So that's I think deals with item 6. So item 7 is the membership update. So Pat's going to give us a brief update, referring to the report.
Okay, as you can see from the report, that we are very happy today to make some reappointments to Sarah Coote as our Quaker representative and Jeff Wheeler as Baptist representative to Group A. We would like to be able to appoint, possibly as an interim, but Sandra Teacher, who's able to be with us here, as a Jewish representative, and Jaswant Singh Digpal as the Sikh representative, all to Group A. And we're very grateful to Sue Bowen, who is willing to be reappointed to Group B. So, yeah, we were able to fill some vacancies very quickly between our last meeting, which is excellent, and excellent news, I would say, for Portsmouth SACRE to be able to represent the wide diversity of the community that is Portsmouth. We are still looking for a Roman Catholic representative, and I'm waiting, as you can see, to hear back from the diocesan office with regard to this. We are still looking to fill a Buddhist representation, but since this report was written, we were delighted to hear back from Humanist UK, and in light of that, we've got observers with us this afternoon with a view to making an appointment in time for our next meeting. Yeah, I think that's everything to completely update the report as it says, and I can see Sandra wants to come on mic.
Thank you, Pat, for that update. As you say, it's really positive that we've managed to get more people on board. Sandra, I'm going to go to you to say something.
Good, Nathan. Thank you again for inviting me, and I'm really happy to be part of the SACRE. I work at the Board of Deputies of British Jews, and actually I'm on lots of different SACREs. But obviously at the moment, and I'm very keen to join, but I can only do it as long as the meetings are online, because I live in London. So, I mean, I don't know what the future holds and whether we're going to continue the meetings online, but it would be very difficult for me to come down regularly to Portsmouth. And I am hoping that we will find, once you get back to your face-to-face meetings, that we will find someone from the Portsmouth Jewish community to take over. But I'm very happy to attend as long as it can be online, and I think it's, you know, one of the positives actually in the COVID. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, you're more than welcome, and I think you raised a really good point there. I mean, I can't speak specifically for SACRE, but I do think some of the talk around on the block generally is about the possibility in the future of having hybrid meetings with things where actually people who can meet physically, you can be joined by people remotely. I'm not suggesting that we can set that up completely, but I think as you indicate, it's there have been a lot of positive, there's a bit of positive side to being forced to do this remote meeting, and one of those is actually an increase in attendance. So
I am a trustee on the Religious Education Council, and I'm also an assessor for the REQM. So, I obviously have a real vested interest in that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Chair, could I just... I just wanted to say that, of course, we had extended years of service from Ruth Guire from the Jewish community here in Portsmouth, which we're very grateful for. And indeed, it would be wonderful to have a future representation from the community. But in the interim, it's great that we've got somebody of experience and expertise as Sandra.
That's brilliant. Okay, does anyone... Oh, Chris, sorry, I'll come to you next. Chris Thomas, you've got your hand up, or is that a legacy hand? It's a legacy hand. Is there anyone else who wants to either ask a question or make any comments about this, the membership update? No? In which case I will assume that there is agreement from everyone. If you've got your last chance to say if you're not in agreement with this, either raise your hand or put RTS. No, that is great. So that those recommendations are approved. Those members are now formally appointed onto the SACRE for a period of 4 years. So welcome to everyone to our expanded group. Fantastic news. Okay. So item 8 is brief updates or notification of items to be brought for a future meeting. Does anyone have anything to raise on this? This is just about if you can think of anything that's not on today's agenda that you think would be a really good thing to have at a future meeting. I can't see anything. I'm relying on Lisa to scan as well.
No, I can't see any
Yeah.
hands
Okay.
or anything either.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, in which case we go on to item 9, which is the monitoring group report. And I'm going to hand over to Pat to summarise this report, and then we'll see if anyone has any questions afterwards.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Much of this report speaks for itself, but for any of those here who are new to SACRE, one of the critical responsibilities that SACRE has, as well as ensuring that there is an agreed syllabus for teaching from across the authority, we have to monitor SACRE has to monitor the effectiveness of its agreed syllabus, the effectiveness of RE across the authority. So we generally are able to meet a small group of us representing the 4 groups for a few weeks before the main SACRE meeting. And you'll see the kinds of things that we generally have an opportunity to take a look at in monitoring the effectiveness. And the purpose of this report, as you can see, is to inform SACRE of our findings, and we met on the 11th of February. We had a very interesting discussion about remote teaching going on and how we wanted to commend teachers in the hard work that they've been doing in the changing circumstances between the last SACRE meeting and the present one, whilst wanting to acknowledge that there were large numbers of children in our primary schools. So primary teachers have been teaching under very complex circumstances, with having substantial number of children in school, as well as managing remote teaching for those that were at home. This was quite a different situation in regard to our secondary schools. The good news, though, was in general our sense, because it wasn't able to do a thorough survey, but our sense is that RE wasn't being taught less often in the light of these circumstances. I think it was a concern in the back of our minds whether RE might be compromised in some kind of a way, but that really doesn't seem the case. And I think the best thing is happening in a way, that schools recognise that religious education offers some very important opportunities for children to reflect on meaningful things at this particular point in time. We weren't able to make actually any school visits during this period, and we had a discussion also about the kinds of monitoring visits that Ofsted are making to schools at the moment, and we'd like to draw everybody's attention to this situation, and that you can scan the findings of any of these monitoring visits under Section 8. They are very brief reports, and they're very unlikely to mention RE. However, it may be that the school's promotion of spiritual, moral, social and cultural development may well be being considered, and inside that RE may be being looked at. We did spend some time discussing both the present situation, which of course has changed again really since we met in February, but regarding this examination, GCSE examination series that should be happening this summer. Of course, we've heard since this meeting that everything is going to be based on teacher assessments. So I think we'll all want to keep our teacher colleagues in mind as they go forward with this very responsible task. However, we did have some new information about the situation for last year's GCSE series. And this is material, information, data that's been able to be accessed by a colleague of ours who is at the RE Council and also works with NATRE, I mean, informally as a researcher. And we were able to find that the percentage of children in the cohort of 2020, to be honest, is similar to what we've had before. Less than 20% of the cohort of Key Stage 4 children are entering for GCSE. However, because of the way the schools that are entering, they achieve really well against the national. Well, this has been a pattern for a few years, and it continues to be a concern to the monitoring group, and we're reporting that to SACRE about the relatively low percentage of children that have the opportunity to study for a full course examination in GCSE in the authority. And it relentlessly leads us to ask the question, which we do keep asking, what is happening for the other children who are in Key Stage 4? And you could ask me more questions about that if you wanted. A very large part of the monitoring group's meeting, and what we'd like to do now with SACRE is to update you on the review of the locally agreed syllabus. Portsmouth shares the agreed syllabus historically with Southampton and Hampshire. And over many years, the authorities have not only shared a syllabus, but moved to review together. In 2016, the Isle of Wight joined us, and the Living Difference 3, as it is currently, is shared across 4 authorities, as you know, and we have been going through the review process. One of the critical things that we have been doing is consulting with both academics and you could say weighty representatives of the faith traditions to check that the lists of concepts and the way that we're approaching the teaching of religions is completely as these groups of people would like it. So, for example, this earlier on today, in fact, Justine Ball, my colleague, and I were speaking to Sheikh Fazal Abbas in relation to this, so we knew we were going to be seeing each other again this evening. We have been consulting with Humanist UK centrally. We had an extended meeting with Andrew Copson, the CEO, and then more recently with Luke Donnellan and Ruth Wareham, who are working more on the education side of things. I can say more about that as well if necessary. We've had a conversation with an academic at Birmingham University who is also a Sikh practitioner herself, who is an advisor to government with regarding to the Sikh elements. And we've been speaking with Clive Lawton of the Board of Deputies, and Sandra and I have an appointment yet to make to follow up that. So I hope that whatever we have in that respect will be absolutely the best it can be. We have been having some focus group meetings with teachers, most recently in January, and we had another one a couple of weeks ago towards the end of February. Now, these are open access meetings, and teachers from Portsmouth have been attending those meetings. And these are, as we move forward with review, just to keep regularly checking that teachers feel content with what we're doing in terms of practical changes or anything we might make. I also would like to extend an invitation to SACRE members to join us, I think, at our next forum focus group meeting, just so that we can hear any voices and you can hear exactly what we're beginning to discuss there. I think Elizabeth Jenkinson who's also a member of the SACRE, has been attending some of these meetings. The biggest discussion we have before us that I would like to return to in the third report that I prepared for this meeting is in relation to worldviews. We do have to make a decision about the extent to which we participate, we modify or change or accommodate the syllabus to go along with the larger discussion that's going on in the RE world in relation to world views. And we're having some thoughts about that currently, as I've mentioned here, probably to put an appendix in the syllabus to explain the position as of publishing Living Difference in the summer this year in relation to worldviews, which still seems to be something of a in flux, I would say, precise its meaning. Clearly, there's some elements of the agreed syllabus that definitely need to be changed in terms of the national adjustments that have been made to the early years and foundation stage. And we're in consultation with specialist teachers and also the person that leads on SEND provision and the training of teachers in that at Winchester University. I think we're really well placed here really to do this piece of work, and it's great that we've got Winchester University on our plan. I've already mentioned the directory document, and in light of COVID and the difficulties in a way of meeting, we have decided to postpone bringing the 3-year action plan to our next meeting. Thank you, Chair. I'll take any questions if this would be a good time for that.
Thank you for that report, Pat. That was really, really thorough. Chris, I believe Chris Thomas had his hand up first. So I'll go to Chris.
Thank you very much. When is the, Pat, you said that you'd like some other people to attend the next monitoring group. Did you have a date for that?
It's tentatively the 21st of April, but I will confirm that for the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
And Sue, you've got
a and just to come back to Chris, the meeting will be at 4 o'clock.
Over to you, Sue.
Yeah, it's Pat, just to ask you on monitoring. In post-COVID days, when we've still not got the resumption of SIAM's inspections, of course, for the Church of England schools to be looking at the effectiveness of RE, and we don't know when they'll resume yet, are there any moves to increase the intensity of looking at that monitoring of the RE, with schools really being pressurised to catch up curriculum and English, maths, English, maths, English, maths? I know that there'll be a lot of pressure from parents in some schools for children to catch up on those kind of core subjects. So are there any moves in terms of how much monitoring goes on or the intensity that you're doing?
So that is one good thing, and then I would like to defer to Debbie, who's here from the authority, probably if she has something to add on this. The good news is that we have been able to set up a local network meeting that Justine Ball, my primary colleague, is running. So that's one positive thing, that we've been able to stay in good contact with primary teachers, subject leaders in the authority. With regard to monitoring and time to be set aside for that, that is something that SACRE would probably need to ask Portsmouth City Council. The monitoring group, what we can do is we are able to look at the websites, and we have drafted a document in relation to that. So we have an idea of what a good website would look like, and we are in the process of communicating that to schools. So that's the first line, really, is to make sure that their websites are well up to date and showing or revealing the best kind of things that they could do in relation to their RE provision. As to actually the time to go into schools, that's something else, really. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Debbie, do you want to come in and add anything to that?
Yes, I'm quite happy to. I mean, I think all of the guidance and all of the importance bit around the curriculum is that it is broad and ambitious. And whilst we would want our children to be having those basic skills, I think during this lockdown, the remote education has been far superior to anything that happened in the first lockdown. So things have moved on. Children have had a much better entitlement to the curriculum. And whilst that isn't the same as face-to-face learning, and there will be skills and concepts and knowledge and understanding that they will need to catch up on, I think it's important that it's broad and ambitious, and I know that that's what schools will be pursuing. It won't just be English and maths.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can just add to that sort of anecdotally, is that we Debbie and I dial into regular calls with both primary and secondary heads, and this morning listening to the primary heads, I was so excited about the plans that they've got for you know, particularly before Easter, around focusing on that breadth of the curriculum. Almost maybe want to go back in the classroom for a moment. But yeah, I think it's a really good question, though. It is a good question. Okay, is there anyone else got any? Who's that down there? Sue, I'll come to you.
I've just spoken. That's historic.
Oh, sorry, that's historic. Yes, I didn't know whether you wanted to come back in, but that's fine. Anyone else want to ask a question or to make a comment about the monitoring group report? Some really good questions there. Okay, in which case the report is duly noted, and we will go on to item 10, which is national and local update on RE. And I'm handing back to Pat, who's going to share some slides.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'll just introduce this report first, and then I would like to share some slides and invite some questions and discussion. And that would also lead very nicely into the two colleagues here who are able to attend the Southwest ARIAC, that's the Association of RE Inspectors and Advisors and Consultants conference that is held every year for SACRE members. This is after I've introduced the opportunity for us to discuss the worldviews question, that they may be interconnected, and it may be that the report back from the conference will relate very closely to what I'm going to say about worldviews. The conference, it would be good to let you know there were more than 50 people attending this conference on Monday afternoon. But for those of you who are newer to SACRE, and just to completely make sure that we're all in the same place, to remind you that the Commission on RE report was published in September 2018. So this was the fruits of 2 years of detailed research and considering research. So there was an opportunity around the country for people to make representations, teenagers, young people, children from primary schools, all sorts of people, all sorts of forums were created in order to try and get a sense of the subject, how it is managing around the country, and to make some proposals. Now, one of the key proposals, as you may remember, was to change the name of the subject away from RE, religious education, to religion and worldviews. Now, that was very specific in relation to religion and worldviews, rather than religions and worldviews, or rather simply than worldviews. However, that Commission on RE report did not come with a ready package sense of what this meant, and neither was it referenced. And what's happened in the last 2 years really is that I think it would be fair to say that what it means has come to mean many things to many people, and those things are not often the same. And one of the things that the RE Council has been able to do is to access some additional funding to, first of all, appoint some academics to undertake a thorough literature review of the concept of the word worldview. And that is available, and I would recommend I'll put that in the minutes to this meeting so that you could read that. In addition to that, there was a group of academics who were drawn together last year. It should have been as a residential thing, but it was over a number of afternoons, over a couple of months, which I was invited to be part of. It was a privilege to have an opportunity to consider the literature review, and out of which, from that has come a number of what they're calling position statements. Now, that hasn't been written by us that we're chewing over those reports, but a number of sort of proposals to deepen this. Now, alongside that, there have been a sequence of meetings earlier on this year which invited representatives of membership organisations of the RE Council to come together and just to begin to chew over this a little bit more. And that process, to be fair, is still going on. What does worldviews mean, and what might it mean? What might the changes mean? So I hope I've just spoken enough background there. I'm just checking. So now some further funding has been accessed. We've already put it in the report. That's good. I thought I had done that, but 3 virtual meetings. Lovely. So what I'd like to do now is to just share a few slides that sometimes I think when we're working in this auditory environment, some of us benefit from having some visuals perhaps as well. So I'm hoping this is just adding to this. Can you see these slides? And people give me an indication. Perhaps Chair or Lisa.
Yes, I can see.
Super. So, the REC Religion and Worldviews discussion, Religious Education Council, what could it possibly mean, this worldviews? Well, one thing it could possibly mean, and this perhaps was what people first thought it meant, was more stuff to include in the curriculum. More worldviews. So you've got religion, well, we're already doing that. Now we need some other things that aren't religion. And I'll be fair to say that many teachers went, whoa, hang on, we've only got 1 lesson a week. How can we include more stuff in that? So this idea that it just means more stuff, I think is really seriously being called into question. And I don't think, to be fair, it was ever intended to just be that. So something else that's emerging into the discussion is that what it really means is to focus on the lived experience of life, of a religious life, or a life that is oriented around other principles, for example, humanist or other kinds of other things that maybe would not immediately be focused as understood as being religious. So it raises the question there of the importance of the lived life, and also of, well, what is it meaning to live a religious life? Does a religious life differ that much from a non-religious? It raises those questions. It raises a huge amount of ambiguity. Maybe it also means this, is that we reorient ourselves away from the stuff to be delivered to children, rather to the point where we begin with the interests of children and young people. And since most children and young people in England coming into school are not necessarily coming from religious backgrounds, we need to start from them and where they're interested. Now, I just wanted to bring this into our context here of living difference and the review. And I think we feel that, and by we, I do mean myself, but I also mean my colleague Justine Ball and all those many teachers and others who've been engaging in the conversations with us, is that we feel that the approach that we have to RE here in Hampshire, in Portsmouth, Southampton, Isle of Wight and Hampshire, using Living Difference and going forward into Living Difference 4, is that it's exactly the kind of pedagogical proposal, a proposal for how to teach that can manage this level of ambiguity. We already feel we can do that. The cycle of inquiry already starts, you'll remember, with young people and children's experiences. We're already interested in the lived experience and a case contextualizing that at the contextualized step. And the inquire step already can include many things. And what teachers are telling us is that they already feel confident to handle whatever worldviews might be meaning. So again, I'm just reiterating this. We feel living difference 3, 4 will be able to manage the ambiguity. We already start with young people's experiences. We're already interested in the lived experience. RE in Portsmouth is never only an objective study, a long way distanced from children. The process that we've had at work here in our syllabus since 2004, the cycle of inquiry, already is open to this. And as I said, teachers are telling us that they feel this capacity to bring, if you could say, the fuzzy edges of life into the classroom is actually what good RE already means. And we feel like we're already on it, if you like. But this still leaves us with some questions. I can hear Chris already saying, but that isn't the date I gave you. No, it isn't going to be the 27th. That turned out not to be suitable for some key people. So what is going to be the best way to represent this lived experience, ensuring that there is the diversity within a religious tradition is represented with integrity? And we're already beginning to have some ideas about this, of maybe having some overviews and then depth studies. We're looking very closely at the concepts, the words that we've got in the lists that we have in the syllabus, and we're having some very key suggestions about how we can get continuity across the key stages. That's really pretty much what I have to say here, except to just emphasize again the value, I would say. If you could only read one report, I think this Theos report that Professor Trevor Cooling and Professor Bob Bowie and Professor Farid Panjwani have written. Now, they know that they're all men and that there was a mission in that way. We've been discussing that, but nevertheless, the intentions of this report, I think, is really worth a look at if you haven't had already a chance. And Chair, I'm going to come off the sharing and would just like, if there was time now, to open up a bit of a discussion about how SACRE is feeling, thinking, and questions you may have in relation to the worldviews discussion.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, and the slides are, you're right, very useful in these days of Zoom. Is there anyone who wants to comment on that or kick off some kind of comments or questions for Pat? Can't see anyone. Chris is going to go for it. You need to come off mute.
And Taki, I can see, would like to speak.
Thank you for your patience. I was at the conference on Monday, and this is a really good presentation. I thought Ruth Flanagan's presentation was really, really good on this. I think that it came over that there is a huge range of what people mean by worldviews, and its impact, which is exactly what you've said there, Pat. So my concern there is that we try and nail this jelly to the wall of what we mean by worldviews, because otherwise it will inevitably diffuse an already complicated syllabus. And so that's my worry bead on this.
Thank you, Chris, for that. I'll go to Taki, and then I'll go to Jane just to see if she wants to expand on what she's put in the chat. Taki?
Just a very simple question, or what seem to be a very simple question. With the term worldview, Are we going to be looking from a global perspective or a more targeted local perspective with regards to the authorities that we're dealing with and with the people that are within this community? Or is it going to be so big that really it'll be very insignificant for what impact it will have locally, in my opinion?
Well, I wonder if I might respond to jump in, and I probably can pick up Chris's point, and maybe Jane will have something to build, and we can maybe continue. I think the main thing I just would like to say is that the law has not been changed. So whatever we decide to do by the summer, because we really have to have it pinned down by the summer, because then it has to go to the editorial and all that thing. We still need to stay within the law, which is why I put in the report that what we think we'll do is we'll stay with the existing purpose statement, and we will put an appendix that explains how we're understanding worldview at that point. And it's still 4 months away, and there's still a huge amount of dialogue going on in the national community. So to pick up Chris's point and Taki's together, I think teachers are concerned. And indeed, when I put this to the SACRE Youth Voice that meets in Hampshire, is the young people said, hey, but we only have one lesson a week to look at religion as it stands, and we are really interested in that, and we love our RE lessons and the way the teachers enabled us to have really complex dialogue. What else are we going to look at? What are these other views of the world that aren't already able to be brought into the classroom at the moment? So we already have, for our humanist colleagues that are attending, in our syllabus, we already have an outline of a unit for Key Stage 3 for teaching a humanism. We've already discussed the key concepts that have been in the syllabus since the beginning of 2004, discussed and agreed with Humanists UK, as it was British Humanists in those days. So we're already open to non-religious positions on life. So what we feel, the first thing is then we feel, to reassure everybody, is we feel this pedagogical proposal, that is the cycle of inquiry, is robust and substantial enough that teachers know how to teach, to accommodate the more fuzzy edges, if you like. The next thing is to consider how we put curriculum together. And there are two things, and I think some agreed syllabuses don't take teaching sufficiently into account. But our syllabus has always had both of those things equally. So this is why we'd welcome your presence, if you can, on the 21st, to look at where we're up to there in relation to curriculum making, and whether what this does do is allow a little bit more flexibility for teachers in their curriculum making. But we still want to be able to talk about progression. We still want to be able to talk about a coherent curriculum that adds up to something across the key stages. So all these things are right in front of us as we start the writing stage of this review process. I hope I've responded sufficiently. And we'll be happy to hear Jane's point, and then Sheikh Fazal.
Jane, you come in.
Pat mentioned the Theos report, and I'd recommend that to you. It's a very good overview of the debate so far. And at the end of it, the three writers, who are Bob Bowie and Trevor Cooling and Farid Pandwani, have given their own kind of personal reflection, and they've talked about their journey from growing up in maybe quite a narrow kind of, this is religious truth, you know, it's like a fixed entity, to kind of realizing that Pat used the word fluid and fuzzy, that actually it's about interpretation, it's about hermeneutics. And they all make the point that it's not about watering down RE. If anything, it's more academically rigorous, because you're really kind of looking at different points of view and weighing and balancing. So I'd recommend that to you. And Chris mentioned the conference on Monday, and there was a very good presentation from Ruth Flanagan, who trains RE teachers at Exeter University. And she was talking, much as Pat was saying, about how the worldviews approach kind of bridges the gap between your typical secular child in the classroom and people from a religious background who they might see as being kind of alien or exotic or something. And the worldview approach just reinforces the idea that we've got shared experiences and that we're starting with, you know, real lived experience and then looking at different ways of reflecting on that. And yeah, so thanks.
Thank you, Jane. That's really useful.
Which is at the heart of the cycle of inquiry. That is exactly what the cycle of inquiry. Sorry, I can see.
Sheikh Faisal, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. My point was just to add to what Chris had mentioned, that when you're talking about RE, for it to be involved in the national curriculum, there was a purpose and objective for RE to be involved in the national curriculum. And I've had a discussion with Dr. Patricia with regards to my feelings as such, that at the moment, if you were to look into the inclusion of the worldviews as such, we might not be able to give the full coverage with regards to the teaching of religious education as part of the statutory national curriculum as such. So I'm still not very comfortable with it, although this is a conversation which is still developing. But the approach which Dr. Patricia has brought about, I think, might be a good way out to take this forward as such.
Thank you. That's a really good point raised. Pat, do you want to come back on that? Or have you obviously had a discussion? Or
we had a discussion this morning. Yes, I think it's like worth our while thinking about what is it that was envisaged in the 44 Act. What was it that brought these people like Archbishop William Temple, together with Rab Butler, the architect of the 44 Education Act, who by all research would lead us to think that he wasn't a religious practitioner himself. And I always look back to the history, you know, Winston Churchill, who was probably something of an agnostic, a bit of a poet, a painter, reflective person, or many things. I don't want to beef people up or down in any way. And I'm just thinking of these three people, together with civil servants. The history of our subject is really fascinating, I can assure you. But there was some intention that may still be worth holding on to in a kind of a way that isn't confessional. We're not trying to make people religious, but the question I think before us is there something quite significant about bringing the question of what does it mean to live a religious life, or what does it mean to live a human life, into a curricular area so that young people have a real good chance to think about that, to do it in an intellectual way, for the teacher to bring them to be interested in an idea, a concept, a word like love, beauty, justice, or something like that. Then in the next step in our cycle of inquiry, to engage intellectually with it, to read, to do some theoretical exploration in an age-appropriate way. And then the final step that we have in our cycle, which we call discernment, where the children have a chance to think about why might this matter too. So why does reason and rationality, for example, matter so much to, or values matter to people of a humanist persuasion? Why does community, in the sense of the Ummah or the church or the Sangha or many things, why does Seva matter so much? Why is it so important in the Sikh community, having really interrogated this? And then to have the final question, what difference might this make to my life? Well, I'm not of this religious persuasion or other persuasion, but I get it. Yeah, thinking carefully how to live my life. There's something in that. And of course, that is the critical thing, the final step that we have in our agreed syllabus. So we hope we can meet this in a supportive, in a collaborative kind of way. But what we suspect at the moment is it will come, explaining our relationship to the worldviews discussion will come in an appendix rather than a radical change to the syllabus.
Thank you, Pat. Debbie, you want to come in again?
Yes, I think what Pat was saying there about the cycle of inquiry, I think for children and young people in the day and age in which we live, that ability to reflect and to be critical thinkers in the world of information with so much going on in the digital age, I think is a crucial key skill. And it feels quite timely to be doing this review now and to be building that in. So for me, as somebody within education, I do think the two can be married in together.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it amazing that the 1944 Act is still so much the foundation of everything we're doing and how we're looking to review and move forward, and it's still there as a kind of basis, open to interpretation as we are exploring. Who's that's got their hand up? Sam.
Hello.
Hi, Sam.
Having just listened to all the conversations, I can understand the concern and maybe hesitancy about radical changes to the RE curriculum, but also can understand the appetite and the inspiration behind looking at more broader and bigger questions about what it means to be a person of faith, or all faiths, or no faith at all. And I suppose one of the things we have at the moment in this time and space is we're all in this level playing field called a pandemic. And in this level playing field, we've had things that we will have all done the same. You know, our worldviews have been kind of reduced to our homely life and how we live that out. And here in Portsmouth, we have the Hive, and the Hive is a wonderful example, particularly of food distribution, of the wider community and community connections working together to provide food for people in Portsmouth houses. And the connections there, I think, are quite wonderful, because we've got up in Lee Park, the Peace Centre. They've provided food at the Peace Centre. Then they've got the other places of worship down here in Portsmouth that have been providing. So I do wonder whether there's a rich moment to embrace, even though change is very hard and we've been through a lot. Yes, and just as we come through the pandemic, to back into the classroom, to tease out, you know, that part of that worldview question, I think will come up. How did you live your life during this time? And to ask those questions together.
Chair, would you mind if I came back and said one other thing about something we're considering including? Would that be okay if I spoke again?
Yeah. Yes, please do. Please do.
I was just hearing Sam mention Lee Park prompted me to just add in, there is something that we're considering very seriously adding into the syllabus, and this is what we're calling pondering time. It's time in the curriculum that would be unclaimed, if you like, and less planned. Time when the young people can follow their own leadings and interests. And we're probably, well, we're more or less certain, but I'd love to have your feedback on this, is we're going to offer the opportunity for a school to plan up to 20%, that's half a term each year, to be open to pondering time. And this would be in 4 different ways we're beginning to think at the moment. The first way could be for the teacher to simply allow, after Christmas or before Easter, every year as the open time for the child to follow their own interests. And it may be much like you would in the early years already, allow children to follow their own interests. I think younger children are very happy to do this, but there's an appetite for it amongst teenagers as well. But and we've got a structure for this. If a teacher felt they needed a structure where they invite the children together in the class in the first lesson to think about the things that they've covered so far. Are there some words? Are there some issues that are hanging around that they'd like to follow up? The teacher then helps them frame that into a question. They may work separately or in groups, and then they begin to scope out what are the key concepts in that. It's a research project, if you like. that could be more or less structured, depending on the expertise of the children. I imagine they've been doing this several years in a row. They'll be familiar and they'll be able to grow with it. But at the beginning, they might benefit from some structure. And then towards the end, they make a presentation to their teacher, to the class, about what they have discovered. And that could be in the form of a, 1,500-word essay with older children, rather like the EPQ that exists at A-level or at GCSE time. And we've got a teacher who's going to try this out with her Year 11 class, non-examination Year 11 class as well for us. So we'll have some models ready for September for the syllabus. Another possibility is that the children are left to just on their own devices, and I say they may become confident in that. And we've got another teacher that's going to experiment that with Year 9 this summer. Another possibility is that within a unit, let's say a particularly a discrete unit, the teacher teaches 2 cycles of inquiry and then gives 3 or 4 lessons where they say, is there something that we've begun to touch on now that we haven't been able to follow up on? Here you've got 3 or 4 lessons in this framework to follow that up. And again, it's a chance for the child to augment and deepen their own reflections on something that they might not otherwise have time for because the teacher's too been busy taking them on this journey. The final option that we're thinking about so far is that we go round a cycle of inquiry. Let's say the word has been justice. And let's say the children started off with, they were invited in to think about justice. Well, what counts as justice? Is it just everybody getting their own way, or does it mean, do we need external justice? How do we work it out? Okay, Sandra. It might also, then the teacher, we come to the inquire and contextualize step, where the child may learn about, it could be a particular religious or other tradition. So justice, there may be some very detailed textual analysis and comparisons depending on the age of the children. We then have a case study, and then we come around, well, why does this matter? I mentioned that before. Why does this matter? What do I think about that? But it could be freedom, it could be hunger, it could be love. We don't know what the word might have been. But then the teacher says, okay, now we've got some lessons for you to follow up something. Do you want to go out and let's go out into the community? And Maria, I was thinking about your community oriented work there, and Sam as well. You go out into the community. Let's go find out. Let's go do some research of what's happening in our community in relation to this. And then we bring that back into the classroom. So this is a way of integrating pondering time with the school and the community and the wider world. And again, we've got a school that is going to trial that for us. So pondering time.
I'm just going to say that I think that sounds brilliant. Really brilliant.
Yeah, and I back to what I was saying before, I think it is an opportune time, because if ever the approach and the curriculum has been rattled in recent years and is settling down, it could settle down in a slightly different version. It's now. Yeah, really interesting.
The teenagers, though the youngsters say they're up for it too.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key aims, we would say, if you look in the purpose statement of Living Difference 3, what we say we want to do is we want to make an educational difference to the way children think and speak and act in the world. And if we really want that to happen, we have to create opportunities, educational space in our curriculum for that to happen, and enable teachers to teach in such a way so that that happens.
Great. Sam, is that a legacy hand, or is that yes, it is. I can tell by your reaction.
Yeah, sorry, apologies.
That's okay. That's great. So a really good discussion around that. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
We just need to go back to the report.
That's what I was, yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to go back? I'll come back to you then. I'll let you lead on this bit about the...
Yeah, no, it's just whether our representatives at the event on Monday had anything else to add. Yeah,
exactly. So Jane or Chris, is there anything else? You've made contributions in relation to that. So anything else from Monday's conference? Jane, I'll go to you.
It's worth saying there was a really good keynote address. Pat will know this from Farid Panjwani, who was speaking from Karachi, where he's an education professor. And he was talking about decolonising the curriculum. And he gave a really good historic overview of how, for instance, when the Brits went to India, they kind of just disregarded Islamic thought and just kind of overrode everything that was already in existence, and obviously brought in their own kind of Western ideas about education, and how religious belief kind of became sidelined, and it no longer, it became a kind of reduced almost to like a set of propositional beliefs rather than part and parcel of everyday life. But then he was also talking about how the colonial approach to religion kind of made Islam a thing, a kind of a fixed entity, and no longer kind of appreciated the variety. So they assumed, for instance, that the Sunni view of Islam was the normative view. And he said, for instance, that's reflected in, for instance, in exam questions. They'll ask pupils, what is the view of, is Islam compatible with democracy? And he says that's not a valid question. It'd be much better to frame it as, what are some of the responses that different Muslims have made to the question of democracy and society and so on. But he was just fascinating. So if you ever get a chance to hear Farid Panjwani, I definitely recommend him. And I think that was the highlight of the conference on Monday. I'm sure Chris and Pat would agree with that.
Thank you, Jane. That sounds fascinating.
I'm hoping to ask Farid if he would repeat his presentation for teachers in our area, and hopefully we can make that an open meeting.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Fantastic. Well, thank you. So I'm assuming there's no more comments or questions about that. I think we also need to appoint a representative to the annual SACRE virtual conference, which is on the 24th of May. Are there any takers for that? I think Jane, is that a yes from Jane?
I don't want to just jump in and do everything, but if nobody else, Sam's interested as well.
Sam?
How many can we send?
Pat, I need to defer to you on that.
Could I say something
or
about
Elizabeth?
it?
Yeah, Elizabeth as
Yeah,
well, because you go, don't you?
I'm on the planning committee for it.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a meeting tomorrow to finalize. So anything I say today may well be changed tomorrow. But at the moment, the plan is to encourage largest number rather than just one or perhaps two representatives, and that the pricing looks as though it will be basically the more you send, the cheaper it will be. So initially, we're looking at a maximum of 4 because we want to make sure that one SACRE doesn't send 15 people or whatever and block others, because there will be a numerical limit just because of Zoom or Teams or whatever it is we're using. I think it's Zoom. But after that, when everyone has had a chance, it will be possible to add on to it. And at the moment, we're talking about 4 representatives and more for £50. So as I said, that may change, but that's it at the moment. So it would be nice if more than one person or 2 or 3 could go.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like Jane and Sam want to go, so you're in the bag. Who else? Is there anyone else who wants their name added to that list?
Shall I say something about the last one, just very briefly?
Yeah, go Sam.
Because I know Elizabeth would have been there, but I sat on the last one, which was in November. And apart from doing some business about SACRE, we saw reports from the West Hill project from schools that have had funding, 2 in particular, and you can find them on the SACRE website, but very briefly, incredibly briefly. One was about treasure hunting, and creating a treasure box with quotations of scripture that from any religion. So it's a really rich variety. I'm sorry, I'm going to put this very, very simply. And the partakers went on a kind of scriptural journey, and you can find all about that. And that was up in the north. I can't find exactly where it is very quickly. And the other example was the idea of going out on visits and faith trails, and that was in Lambeth. And they've got a whole website full of rich resources which anybody can look at about all the religions represented in the Lambeth area and how they do a very simple faith trail. So if you do attend, there's something to gather and glean from it.
Thank you, Sam. That's a good sales pitch. But it sounds very interesting. Okay, so we've got Jane and Sam at the moment. Those two names will be noted, but I'm guessing if anyone suddenly thinks later on this evening, actually I wish I'd put myself forward, then please do get in touch. Okay, so that I think brings us to the end of that item. Which thank you so much for that report. It's always a really interesting discussion. I always come out of this meeting sort of with my philosophical juices flowing a bit more, so that's given me plenty to think about, and we will note that report. So thank you very much, Pat, for that. Which brings us on to item 11, which is the date and the venue of the next meeting, which is on the 16th of June at 4 o'clock. Who knows what the world will be like then, but we're going to make assumptions because I think it's going to take quite a while for physical meetings to start again. So let's make an assumption that it will be virtually unless you hear otherwise. And Elizabeth, you've got your hand up, but it might be a legacy hand. Is that?
Sorry, it's legacy.
That's fine. I just wanted to check that I wasn't leaving you out if you wanted to contribute something. Is there any last questions or comments from anyone before we wrap this meeting up? I can't see any. Lisa? No?
No, I don't see anyone.
That's fantastic. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you so much for all the work that people have been doing, and also for the quality of the conversation and debate. And it's exciting times ahead, and it'll be good to get to the next meeting and hear what's happened at the conference and what other developments have been made. So I'm going to ask Lisa to turn off the live stream. It takes a little while is it?
Turn it off
If you go and turn that off,
okay.
It takes a little while before it's actually switched off. So we have to stay smiling for the public. Looking nice.